Hello and welcome, everybody out there in Union Arena Land. We are joined with first place finisher at Orlando Regionals, Senra. Senra, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, happy to get on here, Joey.
Yeah, it's
Thought it'd be really
fantastic.
cool to be in one of these days, and ended up happening sooner than I honestly thought it would.
Hey, hopefully it'll happen again too. So,
That would be awesome.
first off, congratulations. First place
Thank you.
puts you in the upper echelon of all of the games that we've had, all of the regionals. You are up there with another Roy, two Roy players, and another Kenshin player, and you get to brag about that. You are year one, first place. That is fantastic. And I see that you did choose what I still deem as the best deck in our format, Red Kenshin. Can you walk me through your logic as to why you chose this deck to bring, especially in a field that ended up being completely littered with its hardest counter, Purple Saito?
Yeah, absolutely. It honestly starts a little ways back when I was just kind of playing a little bit of whatever because there were a fair few number of IPs overall that I thought were interesting or fun or had decks that I could get behind. Like one of the first decks I ended up playing for quite a while was I always butcher his name. I always just call him Yellow Yawa from Bleach.
Oh, phlegm noises, Yahaba.
Yes, or or Yawawa, as I end up calling him as the
Yawawa,
local
I like
gets
that. Yeah.
later and later into the evening, and and then it would be like I would go from him. I ended up at some point picking up Megami and Gojo from JJK for a little while. I kind of did like this funky little hybrid between Shikigamis and Gojos. That
Nice.
was kind of fun, but eventually that led to Ashford, where I kind of really found like I like multi-swing decks. I like being aggressive. I like having stuff that like synergizes well together. I like the fact that I could potentially combo in like double untaps. Like there were some times where it'd be like I'd have two Ashford Academies, and I'd get to,
Mm,
because I played the Nonali that turn, I would get two uses out of her activate main. Now I've got two things with impact potentially, like so things like that. Like I like decks that kind of like synergize well together
yeah.
in some way that helps me out with like getting an offense going and going from there. But there wasn't really anything in particular that like I was super married to until, funnily enough, they actually teased the champion cards right alongside the announcement for Kenshin. And I read what the raid did, and I took one look at the raid and went, "Oh, if this is what Red Kenshin is going to be, this deck is going to be a problem."
This Red Kenshin or this Red Kenshin?
Oh, the double attacker when they first
Mm,
when they since the first teased, at least the first teased card I was aware of for the set was when they released the Golden Champion cards. So I like that there was a bit more going on to it than just simple aggro. I try to bulldoze you down in 4 turns kind of deck,
it,
and it
it
just
has a
kind
lot
of
more nuance
yeah
to it than most aggro decks seem to in many TCGs. That's one thing I've
yeah.
always said about this deck. It may be the best deck in format, but it is really hard to pilot it exceptionally well.
No, and I honestly do agree. Like the amount of times I've lost because I've either mismanaged my hand or swung when it made no sense to, or overextended by playing a bunch of raids only to immediately run headfirst into specials or decks that have like the amount of times I've run into a special the moment I play a double attacker is ridiculous. The same thing happened when I was playing Ashford. It'd be like, all right, play my Suzaku raid. Immediately swing into a special. And it's like, well,
GG.
yep. It's like, all right, I'll try again next game because I've only got 4 of those, and there's not a lot of Suzakus in Ashford. Bandai, I would love if you just gave me one more Suzaku. Doesn't even
Yeah,
have to be a raid. Just give me the character.
yeah.
Just
Just
give
a
me
two
something.
cost,
Like I love a 2 cost. Give me
two
like a
cost
two
step
cost. I have
done.
more than yeah. No, done. Easy peasy.
But yeah, I mean, clearly you made the right decision by picking the deck. It worked out fantastically for you. I do want to touch on, however, why you chose the specific list that you have, because compared to many of the other Red Kenshin lists that we've been seeing around, four finals seems like an absolute must for many people. The Heighten, nobody really has had this. Well, there's some people that have had it in their deck, but it hasn't really like come up as much as I know it did for you after talking to everybody that you beat up. And then the
No, yeah, no,
three,
there's
three, and the two drop. Just go over all of it. Like, what? Why?
yeah, no, absolutely. I would say the shortest and sweetest one out of the bunch would actually be the Oath Not to Kills
Hmm.
and the AP resets. Overall, in UA, even going back to when I started, I've always felt most comfortable on 3 finals,
Mm.
just because it gives me the ability to add in, say, an extra character that I might find very useful for the deck,
Yeah.
or if it's a more event centric deck, I might try to run a different kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, outside of seeing it in my deck, if I see it in life, I've never historically had any kind of good luck when it comes to actually getting a final trigger for myself. I
Yeah.
think I've seen maybe two since I started playing. It's just something that never really came up. So I've always just gone in with a mentality when I do build a deck of I'm most likely not going to see it. So I'm just kind of betting on my own, I guess, bad luck in that sense of I'm probably not going to see it as the last life. So I'm going to set it as 3 and I'm just going to go from there and include something else that I might find just as good in the deck, which I would say it worked for me. I don't think there's anything personally wrong with for AP resets being able to extend and have more opportunities to extend is a exceptionally good thing, 100%. And there's some decks where I actually do feel like it's legitimately a very, very good thing to have. Like, I think Mustang with 4 AP resets is really, really good just because you want to be able to get out a bunch of stuff, maybe push things up, replenish, and then go again.
Absolutely.
Maybe you just need a low hand size because you just need to blow up one thing and give the Mustangs impact. Or you just need to give Edward impact, so all you really care about is 2 cards that you can discard. So it's kind of but that's kind of like a balancing act for Mustang in its own right. But overall, that's honestly the main reason. Part of the logic in the 3 is I wanted to keep because of how important the 4/2 Kenshin is. All right, I just call him Angry Boy.
I always go
I
Kilshin.
I like that a lot actually. That's good. Um, Essentially, my logic there is I essentially have one final for every Angry Kenshin, and so that way it's kind of like if I see them, phenomenal. The deck draws enough that chances are I'll likely run into at least one of each, whether it be out of life or drawing it and being able to use him in a combo, which thankfully he does like to show up quite a bit. It's for whatever reason, no matter how much I shuffle, there's almost always like 2 right around each other to the point of there's sometimes I'll have like a really good opening hand, but I'll end up mulliganing it just because I have a bunch of zeros and then like 2 4/2 APs. So it's like, despite how nice the opening hand looks, that's still kind of slow compared to what I'd like to go for.
Yeah, that's not very good.
Yeah.
It's too AP intensive for an aggro deck.
Yeah. So it's like if I end up seeing I have like 2 in my starting hand, I'll be like, okay, the starting hand's kind of slow. I'll mulligan it. I'll know there's potentially 1 more in the deck. I'll shuffle it all up, and that'll at least unbrick that particular card and spread them out. So I have I guess, better shot of essentially seeing them instead of them being all clustered together.
Fair, fair.
But overall, that's more or less the only thing there, just because the 4/2 Kenshin synergizes with Oath Not to Kill. I figure if I have 1 Oath Not to Kill for 1 4/2 Kenshin, then at the very least, I just call it like balanced in that regard. And the other reason why is I wanted 3 AP resets because legitimately I just wanted to try to include more Kenshins.
Yup.
Despite how many are in the deck, funnily enough, you can pretty quickly run out of Kenshins.
Yeah.
Which I didn't initially expect at first until after a couple of games I started to realize like between all the discarding, the drawing, raiding over things, it got to a point where it's like I'm sitting on like 2 or 3 raids, but I've already either lost Kenshins or discarded them, or I have one that I raided over and I'm like AP drawing, hoping to just find another body to like raid over. And some Kenshins I'd prefer to keep as is, like the color trigger, because Nullify Impact is a phenomenal thing to have. So if I have the ability to keep him unrated, I mean, of course, like absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah. So one card
Oh,
I
no,
do
go
want to
ahead.
touch on is like the fact that you needed more Kenshins. That's why you have the 2/1 in your deck. Because a lot of people I've seen like
Part of the reason,
1 in the list, like if that.
Partially. The other reason why actually is because of I like it just on the fact of on the off chance, like, well, not even on the off chance. I would just say if I'm not seeing early Kaurus or I just need bodies up front, a 2-drop 4K on my opponent's turn is very nice early game, especially if my opponent sees like, oh, they're playing Red Kenshin. I should try to match their aggression and put some stuff up there. So having good 4K defense on a 2 energy curve, also with the draw trigger in a deck where I just want to keep having as healthy of a hand size as I can,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly find the card to be fantastic. And honestly, when it comes, the other reason I kept him in here, and he ended up coming in very handy pretty much throughout the tournament itself. He combos really well with the 4-2 Kenshin.
Yep, I was gonna ask that. Did you?
That
Did
yeah.
you?
Oh yes, no. Like I want to say, at least at bare minimum, half my matches I was comboing the 4-2 Kenshin with this guy just because now I have 2-drop 4Ks, or if I have him in the back line because I was setting up energy curve, and it's like, oh, I got a Kaoru. I can push him up, get the Kaoru out, throw down the Mad Lad there, and then go with and then pitch this, draw a card, get a whole bunch of extra cards,
Hmm.
and now I'm swinging with an extra 4K, and he sidelines, and he's a 4K on my opponent's turn anyway.
I think a lot of people didn't
So,
realize the 4-2 removes all during your turn abilities, not just the I can't kill ability.
which honestly valid, considering most people are going to fixate on the pushback
Yeah,
over anything else, considering how just integrated that one mechanic is into literally every Kenshin except that one.
yeah, yeah.
But overall, I would say that's the primary reason for it. I wanted to have some extra Kenshins. He's also a really good raid target once it gets towards later in the game, where I might have used the 4-2 Kenshin's ability to try to clear board and pull ahead so that I can, because the deck in and of itself, if I'm not seeing the special triggers or I'm not getting them in hand, like the deck's not going to be removing all that much.
Yeah.
So being able to have extra bodies that can combo with the 4-2 beyond the double attacker and the color trigger, I felt was really useful in allowing me to really kind of potentially like sit on like one or even two of those Ryuxusen. I think it's Ryuxusen. I always mix up the Ryuxusen. I'll go with that.
Sure.
That card.
The special.
The special, that card, the Ryu card, yeah. So being able to have I kind of, at least in my own mind, I equated it to something similar of using Riza to help you extend the amount of cards you can keep in your hand when comboing with Mustang.
Right, right.
If I can create more blocks that sideline and things like that, I'm perfectly content with that. Just because the deck doesn't have a ton of removal outside of the color trigger and the special trigger. So if I can keep my opponent on the back foot, or potentially even, I would say, I guess in a sense, catch them off guard, where they might think like, oh, he just has a bunch of Kenshins and like one's a 3K, or in one of my games, like I had like two of them out and it was like two 3Ks and like a color trigger. So they just threw some stuff up that they would be like, all right, it'll get pushed back. And then if I can recognize, it's a bit of a guess because for all I know, they're just doing that because they just want to make room and play more things. But if they're thinking, okay, I can just block out of this and I can key in on that, then I can play that down. And now it's, oh, I'm not getting these cards back. I'm potentially taking a couple extra life I might not want, and it puts them in that uncomfortable spot of me
Hmm.
saying, I want you to make I want you to make a bad choice.
Yeah.
I want the option of you're either keeping some things that you potentially didn't want to keep, or you thought you were going to be getting back in your energy line, or you're taking extra damage against a deck that can kind of attack from out of nowhere and suddenly have an extra 1 to 2 swings outside of the normal like 4 if my front line's full.
Yeah. It's remarkable the level of nuance this deck has, especially as an aggro deck for all the different lines and how you can have mind games against your opponent. I think that contributes very widely to the power and strength of the deck is the mind games your opponent has to play because you're not playing UA, you're playing Kenshin when you play against Kenshin. And
Yeah,
that is a
and
very noteworthy thing for the deck.
okay, and part of the mind games, funnily enough, is actually the 3-cost Kaoru that let you draw at the end of the turn.
Hmm.
There's been a there's been games where I've played her, and the draw is really nice. Being able to go up +1 at the end of your turn if you don't sideline anything
Hmm.
is really good. But there is a balancing act I've found with this deck where I've had her active, and people have thought that I play this, I might not swing out, and so they'll take they'll take a life. I'm still swinging. They'll take a life. I'm still swinging. So you can kind of use her as a bit of a mind game too, from what I've seen, just from people thinking like, oh, well, it's a Kenshin player. They want to try to get their hand as healthy as possible. They want to increase it as much as they can. Whereas me, it's like,
No, you want to kill them. Like,
yes. Oh no, 100%. Like I've like as I've gotten to play the deck more and more, it is absolutely an aggro deck, but I almost consider it kind of like a combo deck because you'll have like two or three windows depending on how long the game goes and how spread out like raids and everything else are, assuming a game goes that long, where you can really close out a game or bring it close to its end to the point where like the impact Kenshins or the double attacker can just get that extra swing in and end the game. Because the moment you run into a special, if you've not sequenced your swings properly, you're out two swings here, you're out a swing here, and I have no way to get any of this back. So the moment I start running into a bunch of removal and big bodies, that's when it starts to slow down a lot. And even on characters that can't be moved, it's like that's damage I'm never doing every turn. And so being able to kind of like line up and have those big swinging turns, you'll probably get two, maybe three of those big turns, but that's generally all you'll need because of how aggressive the deck is. But once it's gone beyond that, if your opponent survived all of that, they've probably removed most of your raids. You've probably used the majority of your Oath Not to Kills. You've probably used your Angry Kenshins. You've probably used his Activate main. The protection on the Karus has probably been used. You've probably exhausted most of it, and your hand's probably quite small by that point. So by that point, it's either by that point it's kind of like a either you're ending the game or they have it, and that's all she wrote. If they can weather all of that and still be going.
yeah. I mean, that's thank you for the deck tech on Kenshin for all of that.
No
Yeah,
problem.
it's a lot of nuance to this deck, and it is fantastic to see that at least the best deck is skill dependent. I really appreciate that. But going
Oh,
back to the tournament itself, what decks did you run into as you played through all of it? What challenges did you face?
the first game I played against a Mustang.
Ooh.
And that game, it ended 7-0, but it wasn't because the Mustang bricked or I saw any kind of incredible high roll. It was simply because of the fact that they, and the couple of times they had played, we ended up actually chatting a little bit after the game where I even let them know a little bit about what I've even talked about here. That what his experience with the deck was is the players he played against when he played Kenshin would play something up top turn one, like the stepper or the 3K, and throw something in the back and then expand from there. And what ended up happening was I did exactly that. I threw a 3K Kenshin up top and I threw a Yahiko in the back just to get my energy line going. And he threw a one cost Risa that let him look at the top two and reorganize them up front, thinking on that next turn, I'm just going to play some stuff and swing.
Hmm.
I did not.
Nope.
That is one of the things with this deck is just, like I said before, just know when to swing, know when to leave it be.
Yep.
And I did that. That then led to him being at one energy and being able to play nothing for almost 4 or 5 turns. And I just continued not attacking.
Yep.
So by the time I did, I was at 5 energy in my back. I had raids. I had a fairly full front line, and it was pretty much seven. I went from he went from 7 to 1 in one turn, and then lost from there because of me just not attacking that one turn, which ended up being the very right play. Because while we were chatting about it, he's like, "Yeah, my starting hand had 3 Flame Alchemists
Mm.
and like the 2-drop Risa, another, and the Roy he played. The like basically, if I had done that one swing, he would have pulled back, been able to play the 2 energy draw card Risa, and then would have had access to 3 Flame Alchemists plus everything else he would have drawn after that. And it would have been much rougher or just a total loss for me. Just because he would have been able to blow up everything while playing Mustangs, while blowing up another thing with Mustang. And that's how the first one went. Second game was a Saito that went down to I ended on about 2 life. It was rather close, honestly. He saw, I think, like 2, 3 snipe raids. I ended up seeing like 2, 3 double attackers. We saw a pretty similar amount of stuff. I just what ended up sealing it was getting my third double attacker from life and then being able to play the Angry Kenshin and the color trigger, setting him active Funnily enough, with the Hiten event, so I got to keep an extra card, which was just enough to keep my to do all my double attacks and
Nice.
end the game there. Round three, I played a Sukuna who it was also around like one. I think I had like maybe one or two life by the end. Like he saw a couple Sukunas, bounce Yujis. Like he saw a pretty good amount of stuff. It was a very close game. It was a fun game. Like I actually really like that Sukuna got like unrestricted because I mean the deck's fun and I don't think it really broke it. I just think it made it a lot more consistent and gave it like that nice little prop up to where it honestly should be. Just especially with everything that's out now and is coming out. Like
It just
I
gave it
feel
a
like
5%
yeah,
boost to its high roll. That's all. Like that's all
yeah.
it did.
And oh yeah, and I mean, and funnily enough, it also kind of, in a sense, turned the deck into a Pokemon deck, just because of the moment you play a couple of those Yuji searchers and a couple of those Sukuna searchers, you know every card that's in your deck, so you can get pretty a very good idea of what's sitting in life, and start being like, okay, I didn't see any Divergent Fists or Ratio Collapses in my deck. Time to start eating life so they hit specials and I push up and end the
Yep.
game.
Yep.
So I actually think that's kind of cool, having enough searching to be able to just cycle through and see your entire deck, have to now care about the organize them at the bottom how you want, and getting at least an understanding of what's in your life. I think that's a cool kind of thing to see, just because half the time with searchers, with a lot of decks I run into, it's like you search whatever you bottom deck, like that's just, it may as well be in sideline. You're not seeing it again.
Right.
So I think that's actually kind of cool, truth be told. Um, but what ended up winning that one, he wasn't necessarily that. I will say the starter deck Kenshin won that game, but it was not because he swung, but because I played him in the back line to prevent him from being sniped, and because I needed to stay at 4 energy,
Mm.
because all I had in my hand were essentially events, so that I could use the one special trigger in my, or the one special trigger card in my hand, to create a man advantage and try to swing out for game essentially.
Nice.
So it's one of those things that I don't see too many Kenshins do. There's some lines where you legitimately just leave the impact Kenshin in the back after using his effect, especially if you could get him early, just because he's now going to sit there and your opponent is going to start blocking a bit more, because if they eat too much life, it just turns into, all right, as long as I can defend out, my turn, I push him up and then end with like an impact damage or something if you don't have an impact negate. So it can kind of create that pressure by just like any character with impact can. If you sit them in the back line, it's just like, I can push this up anytime, but I'm going to force you to think about how much life you actually want to take, which has its moments. There's definitely plenty of times you just push them up, get the impact damage in, and keep going. But depending on the deck you're running into, if there's like a bunch of stun effects, snipe effects, I can there's some merit in keeping him in the back there, just so that he's safe and he's kind of like guaranteed damage down the road when you need him.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Um,
guaranteed impact to close out the game is what makes impact a powerful mechanic to begin with.
oh, 100%, yeah. And for all I know, that could be the one starter deck Kenshin I see the whole game. So if I have one and I feel like he's not safe to have in the front line, I'll just keep him in the back. So I know the moment I put him in the front line, he's like the number one target.
Right.
He's going to get sniped. He's going to get special triggered. He's going to get hit with a removal effect of some kind, a bounce effect, bottom deck, like you name it. Especially with everything that's currently out in the meta at the moment.
Absolutely.
Um,
Round four?
fourth,
Yeah.
round four was a round four was a Toshiro deck actually, which was I believe that was anti-heroes
Okay. One of the other
deck.
top 16 contenders.
Yeah, and that game ended up being fairly close. One thing that ended up kind of letting me start to run away with it was seeing a special out of life,
Mm.
and then being able to just kind of keep hitting over and over and over with the color triggers and the 2 drops and the angry Kenshin. And one of the things I found is being a little conservative with the raids, just because of all the Toshi freezes, the Kenpachi, the 4-2 Kenpachi that can KO a 4K because they're going to pretty quickly have a full board. So it would be it was one of those things where it's like, all right, he froze this Kenshin. He didn't remove it, but now I can raid over it, and the freeze is effectively not an issue anymore. So it was one of the Toshi matchup can definitely be rough between all the freezing, the 5k Kenpachi that if I try to bottom deck him, you just discard a card and you keep a 4k anyway.
Yeah.
He might even be the guy with impact, who knows?
Or worse, the double end that he needs just to keep pushing into you. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, like it's oh yeah, no, like Toshi is definitely a rougher match, especially if they start seeing like almost everything. Because I mean, like the draw Karu ceases to function at that point. Anything I want to push up is rested. It slows the deck down considerably, which is why I played it a bit more conservatively, just because I didn't want the freezes and the backline stuff to slow me down much. Because the moment I start letting it, they're just going to run away with it. They have a lot of on-demand impact. I don't know if he's running the Shinji card that can give out impact. I don't know if he's run the little pink-haired girl that can give an extra damage or an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can, because I've seen decks run both of those, one of those, none of those, and just focus more on Toshi and recovering Toshi with the, I think it's the one drop or the two drop Toshiro that lets you get one drop. So considering all the different like variants on the deck, I wasn't 100% sure which one I was running into. So I was like, all right, I can get stuff online about as quickly as he can. And so I'll try to kind of counterpunch by, okay, he freezes this, I'll raid over the frozen character. I'm at least now not down an attack on my turn, was the general game plan with the Toshiro deck. And it ended up working out. It was still a close game. Like he definitely knew what he was doing. I honestly think that the special from life definitely helped me run away with it, as it often does in most games. Like special from life can be absolutely devastating, especially when games start to get down to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Fifth game was Mina. It was Artie Spagarty's Mina, actually. That game was fun. It was a very similar approach. I won't lie. Initially, because of the raid they first played, I had a completely different game plan. They played the 3-cost Reno raid. So I was like, oh, I'm dealing with Kikaru Reno. And so I decided to up the aggro, because I was like, okay, I'm playing an aggro deck. I need to go a little faster.
Yes.
Because that deck's really low to the ground. And then, so I upped it, and I took a couple of life, and then he plays Byakko and the Mina. I'm like, I'm not playing against Kikaru, am I?
Nope.
And I was just like, oh, I'm not playing against Kikaru. I'm gonna keep going fast because she's just gonna stun my entire board, and I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah, end it before they do.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a set once I realized what it was. I took a similar approach to the Toshi thing, where it's like, okay, I have a lot of 4Ks and 3Ks in general that I can play, or I can push up like the Yahiko or the one-drop Searcher Kenshin if I really need like a smaller body to just block with and slow things down a little bit. But once I saw a Kenshin get stunned, I was like, okay, I'll now raid over this Kenshin, because now I'm not swinging into him and letting him get a stun set up on me. He now has to expend after I've already taken life to get a stun on me, essentially. So, and Artie Spagarty was a good guy. Like his whole outfit reminded me of kind of like the youngster Pokemon trainer with like the jean vest, the backwards hat. Like it was like he was a very cool guy.
He had drip.
Absolutely, no, he was a cool guy. We ended up chatting a little bit after the game, and he was like he was just fun to chat with, just because like I want to say like maybe like 2-3 minutes before the match, we were both talking in one of the UA discords, just like, damn, we're both I'm 4-0. I was like, hey, I'm 4-0 too. And so it's like, wait, hold up, weren't we just chatting in Discord?
I realized that after you guys both posted that in the Discord. I was just watching it go back and forth. I was like, oh, nice, you're both undefeated. That's great. Just dodge each other. Nope.
No, they're immediately paired right then and there.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. The sixth match was a mirror with Red Kenshin and
your first mirror of the day.
My first mirror of the day.
Yeah. Was it your only mirror of the day?
Yes, it was actually.
Ooh, okay.
That mirror, it came down. The mirror feels very coin flip. It kind of comes down to a mix of who sees the 4-2 Kenshins and honestly just one of the Karus. The moment either Karu is down, your energy line becomes a lot more manageable. You can push up more. You can leave more room for blocks, things like that. Like the moment I get one of each or just one or like two of one. What ended up, I think, swinging it was I started the game with two zero cost Kenshins that had the 3k BP, and I move I and a Kaoru since I got turn one. Turn three, it was just push the two Kenshins up, play a second Kaoru,
Mm.
AP reset. Suddenly, I have a 3k and like two 4ks
Yeah,
with
that's
a
pretty
double
good.
attack, and so I would say I got to have a very explosive turn four in the mirror, and they ended up seeing a couple things, but that was one of the games where I think I ended around like 3 life. The player was solid. It just felt like I kind of saw a little bit more, a bit quicker than they did, which just led to them being on the back foot. And at least in the mirror, it feels like once one of the Kenshins get going, unless life pile kind of bails you out or gives you push Kenshins or specials, it becomes pretty difficult to claw your way back in unless you see like an AP reset or two, and that lets you like multi-raid and really do like a very hard pushback on your own turn after they do the same. But the player was solid. Like he knew his stuff. Um, and honestly, also like a good guy. That's kind of like the common theme for the majority. Like every match I had, like everyone was just chill.
We love UA community. Everybody's a good guy.
Yes. Match seven, it was Gutless Mist. It was the Byakuya
Yeah.
purple deck.
Yeah.
Was that was very close. It was like we both saw plenty. Like I think he saw like two. It was like he saw like two Byakuyas. He saw like Senjimaru's. He saw like a Senbone, maybe two. He definitely saw a fair amount. That game was pretty much like a life apiece down to the wire. And what ended up winning it was actually the Heat 10 event because I had just enough with the thing is the Heat 10 event is actually legitimately the only reason I won. And the only reason I had it is because I got a draw trigger off of one of my two cost Kenshins,
Let's go. The
which drew me
synergy.
that, which drew me that, which drew me that. Then I drew for turn. And what ended up happening was I had, without the Heat 10, I actually think I would have probably lost because he had like two or three more cards in hand. I don't know what else he was planning to use next turn, but he was at 2 life, and his
You'll be
second to
able to
last
find out
life.
when his video drops tomorrow. I already interviewed
Oh,
him and we
okay.
talked about it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
This card, we
I
were
feel
both
like
surprised it had text. I
I, I, I will like I guess just to touch on this real quick since you
Mhm,
didn't mention a curiosity with like why it was in there and
mhm.
I guess why it was at what it was at.
Yeah.
Initially, I actually had it at a three of up until Friday when I was doing some uh, practice at an Airbnb with some folks from D3 like Ming, Karner, Gutless Mist, and Temperance, Saro, and a couple other people. I'm blanking on some of the Discord tags, but initially it was at three, and I really like this card. It is an incredibly synergistic card, but I can, and I've, there was a, the Kenshin I actually faced in the mirror ended up chatting with me a little bit after the final match. He was curious about what my thoughts on it were. And the way I look at it is you can have either on demand synergy and draw when you need it, or you can swap these two out for like the zero cost Karu that lets you draw one, discard one.
Mm.
For just like if early on, if you just want to get deeper into your deck, find your pieces, and really double down on just aggressively finding your win con, I think that's totally fine. For me, and since I tend to treat it a bit more like a aggro combo style deck, I adore the Heat 10 event because it synergizes with the double attacker, which will keep my hand at the exact same amount on one of the restands. I can use it on the one drop Kenshin, where I get a Kenshin, discard it, draw another card. So I'm now +1 on my searcher.
Right.
I can use it to restand the color trigger and draw a card. So I just go net neutral.
Yep.
And if need be, it's one of those cards like the deck has enough to finish the game in its own right. It's got plenty of swings. It has impact. It has enough 4Ks. It can bottom deck cards. So like it has enough. But sometimes, and especially with what I saw with with my time playing Ashford, all I need is a bit of an opening. If I can create like an opening with like a special or a color trigger into a special on my turn,
Right.
that's plenty. So having this at a 2 of feels fine because it's also a non-trigger. So it's like if it's in life, well, what can you do? But if I run into it, it synergizes with the majority of the deck and the main cards that help it function, like the Kill Kenshin, the 4/2. If I end up using it with him, I'll draw a card, pitch that, draw again, send Heat 10 to removal, draw a third time, all off of essentially one card, which I find to be very useful, especially if I'm priming to go into a combat phase with 1 or 2 double attackers, or I want to then set the, or I draw into a color trigger Kenshin and I want to use one of the cards I got to immediately stand him active and keep the aggro going. But what ended up happening is Gutless Mist's second to last trigger was a color trigger, and if I hadn't rested one of his own characters, he would have had just enough to block the second to last swing on a double attacker.
Okay.
And he would, and my impact would not have mattered. Essentially. So it basically gave me that exact singular swing I needed to end the game right then and there. Because the color trigger would have just, the color trigger essentially meant I lose, because I'm pretty sure he had one of those like 1-drop debuff Byakuyas in his graveyard, just from me like bottom decking some of his
-1K
Byakuya
your
raids.
dude. Yeah, just
Yeah. So it's like so the impact it would essentially be null and void. It wouldn't matter.
Right.
But because all he had up was a small body from the color trigger, the impact still goes through, and that is what allows me to close out the game.
Oh, that is remarkable. Yeah, because if you would have asked me before I heard about this specific thing happening from Gutless, I would have said, yeah, that's that card that you discard to Kenshin, and that's all I knew about it. Like that was,
and I mean, and even
that,
like I listed, there's plenty of reasons to do that, because you can aggressively get into your deck, and that's why I like it. At least personally, I like it over the Kaoru, because I feel like I draw plenty. And being able to have an easy discard for the double attacker, the 4/2 Kenshin, the Searcher, and the color trigger makes it feel like a very like just nice card to have. It's like if I have it, fantastic. If I don't have it, well, who knows? Maybe I'll draw into it. And once I've got all those bodies already established, it then just becomes a really nice card for creating an opening and forcing them to potentially block more, disrupt their energy line, et cetera, et cetera.
all right. Yeah, fantastic plays, and it pays off to have that tech and have that knowledge. So, on to your last round.
Oh my goodness, my last round with Ming. That one wasn't.
So
oh my goodness.
You're a draw 3 guy, so you'll understand when I say this. I authentically think Ming is one of the best UA players in NA. Like, he's absurdly good at the game. It's so hard to get a dub over him. Like,
oh no, legitimately. I spent a good chunk of Friday just playing against him.
Yep.
And whether it was the yellow Nikke deck he was running, or the Toshi deck, or that he was running, he is a legitimately great player.
Yes.
And the 1 or 2 times I've gotten him in like D3 tournaments, I have like barely beaten him or barely lost to him. He's a tough out for anybody. No, and this game had me like my brain was fuzzy after that. I mean, it was already kind of hitting that point after final round. It was like final round Ming, like, and I mean, it was one of those games where like it was one of those unpredictable games in a sense, just because while I was playing, I would hear the occasional like comment just about like how the game's going. Like early on, I swung into a special, and there was someone who's like, "Oh, that might be it." And then Ming swings into me. I also get an early special.
Let's go.
And then it's just back and forth with like raids, active triggers, specials. He's seeing the 4/2 Kenpachis. He's seeing the Kenpachi raids. He's seeing a Toshiro raid. And I'm just like, oh my! It was getting to a point where I had basically nothing left, and he ended up getting me down to 1 life first. He was sitting at 2, if I recall, in the final turn, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, there's like 1 or 2 cards that maybe bail me out of this, and it ended up being a color trigger because I just needed an extra swing.
Yep.
But here's where it gets kind of crazier. His second to last life is like a draw trigger. He's blocking. I'm swinging out. He hits a final that actually activates on his last life, and I'm like, and this is why I say that one of the things with this deck is understanding just how to swing and with what. I honestly believe if I had swung in any other way, I actually just don't win. Because if I swing early with the one impact Kenshin I had, I lose. Because he just blocks, pushes up, back up, and has a very good shot at ending the game. Because he had a pretty healthy hand. He had like maybe 4, maybe 5 cards. I'm not sure what was in there, but he would have potentially had enough. And no, that game was like a down to the wire game. It was a very fun game. It was just one of those things where it was like, wait. It was one of those moments just like, wait, I think I can win. Oh damn, he hit a final.
But you still
oh wait,
have
I think I
the
can.
impact
But I
per
think,
game.
but because I saved the impact, I was potentially. I'm like, all right, well, because we both saw a lot of our specials early. By the time once I see someone hit me with like 2 or 3 cards with the special trigger, I start to realize like, okay, the life's probably safe, unless it's purple bleach. Then there's probably a Senjamaru in there, and I'll be
Right.
sad anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like I said, it was a very close match. It was honestly a very fun match as far as a like grand finals match to get a win on. Like that's a kind of match I want to have. I've seen people talk about like some other ones where it's like, oh yeah, they're like undefeated, they're in grand finals, it's round 9, and one of them bricks and it's a 1 player game. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
that's just
yeah.
and I just kind of sit there. I'm like, oh,
I
that's
want it
just
to be a
not.
battle.
Yeah, no, like that. Like there's point like that. Like I don't know if the judges would allow it. I think it would depend on the judge, personally speaking.
Yeah.
But the amount of times in locals where if someone's bricked and I notice them looking a little, I'm like, do you have a playable hand? It's like, no, just like, by all means, man,
Take it
just shuffle
back.
and get a playable,
I
get a
do that
playable
in
hand.
my locals
Yeah,
all the time. I'm like, dude, like, come on. I'd
and
rather
it's and
not.
it,
I'd rather
yeah.
lose than not play. Like,
Oh no, 100%. And so it's like I was like, if I'm there, I'd probably just lean and be like, look, if your hand's a total brick, please reshuffle it. We're both like 7-0, 8-0. We've been here all day. Neither of us want to sit here while the other person plays the game and one of us does nothing. I would rather grand finals be an actual competitive match.
right.
Though, oh my god, I completely spaced on this. There was actually one pause during the grand final match because this was my first regional TCG anything. Generally, my deck is horizontal, and I just kind of shuffle cards. I don't really worry too much about like their orientation, whether they're upside down, right side up, or so to speak. And I have like a set of Okami sleeves, so there's a design. So there's very clearly like a way you can look at it and be like, okay, this is it, how it normally faces. This is it upside down.
Right.
And Ming told me on Friday, just make sure it's all facing one way because there are rules for this.
Yep.
And sincerely, I completely forgot about it after just because of all the matches that were going on
Right. Right.
that day. And so we got to grand finals. We were about 5 life apiece, and one of the judges like, we're just going to put a quick pause on this. We just have to go make sure that because your sleeves are not all uniform in the direction they're facing, that it isn't malicious. And I'm just like, oh my god, I forgot about the rule.
Yep. You got to be careful with
And
that. It's
yeah, no, 100%. And and I will even say that's completely on me. Ming told me, I just legitimately forgot, and there wasn't a single judge that said anything while I was sitting at the undefeated tables for the last like 4 matches. So I was just like, all right, I'm just playing my game. And then he's like, and also just make sure uh, your deck is basically facing north instead of facing like a east-west and sideways, because generally I just kind of plop my deck sideways. Like at locals, I just draw and go from there, or it'll be like diagonal, or basically it wasn't just straightforward. And I mean, thankfully the judges didn't end it on that, because they're like, yeah, no, like there was a bunch of cards, it was all just totally random. You're good.
yeah. It's just you pick up your cards and go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and which it's like, good on them for not just going like, okay, yeah, this happened, it must be malicious immediately. Just kind of like be heavy-handed with it, because that would have sucked.
Right.
It's like get all that way, and then it's like, oh, I have some cards that are facing left instead of them all facing right, and that's what does it. I'd be upset. That'd suck. But overall, that was essentially all the matches. And no, like you said, like it is a meta full of decks that are just I'm going to beat the crap out of Kenshin, and there was not a single deck I saw that wasn't just we're gonna beat the crap out of Kenshin. Like
Yep.
I'll even say this, like I feel like even Sukuna can do pretty well into it as long as you manage like having some space in your back line.
I'm
Just
a
because
professional
you,
Sukuna hater, but okay.
just because just because color trigger,
Right.
the bounce Yuji, being able to snipe, stun, the Sukuna with impact, like it has a lot of good control tools
Right.
just to be
Absolutely.
able to kind of like grind out a red Kenshin. So I would say it's like an all right matchup for Kenshin. It's not like as bad as like Mina or Toshiro or Byakuya or Saito,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but
Those ones hose
those
Kenshin. They
ones,
are
oh my god,
composed to go.
it's just like yeah, but Sukuna was probably my most favorable matchup of the day, but even that, I feel like it has some good teeth into it. It's just a matter of does Sukuna see his pieces? If he does, he'll start to grind you out, and it can get rough because he'll have stuns and bounces and snipe, and just it can start to get difficult to just keep a front line to try to hit the guy.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, clearly, despite all of the hate that everybody had at the tournament for your deck, it's not enough when Kenshin is just a consistent powerhouse for everything. And kudos for you. You piloted it expertly. It is a deck that you need to pilot expertly to be able to take to this high tier. And once again, congratulations on that. That is
thank you.
amazing for an accomplishment. But we are nearing the 1 hour mark.
Oh shoot.
You're good. This is your spotlight. You're allowed to yap, man. You are good.
Oh,
You are
all right.
perfectly fine. I do want to know, do you think Red Kenshin is going to continue uh, as a powerhouse in our meta? Maybe not to the same degree, but like a little lesser, or maybe still to the same degree once we have Natties, which has SAO Volume 2 and Evangelion.
Overall, from what I've seen of the sets coming out like around the corner, and I'll even include Demon Slayer Volume 2, since I know that Muzan is a pretty popular, like
You,
fan favorite kind of deck, and it gets a lot of
you mispronounced
really nice support
Rengoku, but
from.
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh
Sorry.
no, Rengoku's the man. The
I'm
fact that
joking.
there's all the
It's,
snipe,
yeah.
no, the fact that Rengoku has snipe protection, I feel like is actually kind of sleeper with the amount of
Yeah.
strong like snipe effects starting to come around.
Oh,
So
yeah.
no, Rengoku, I'm keeping an eye on you. You got some funny stuff
Shh,
going on
don't
over
tell
there.
them. I built it last night. Shh, don't tell them.
Rengoku is just a funny guy. Don't worry about him.
He just likes fire. That's all.
Yeah, see, there you go. Just
And
like
bedtime.
Mustang. Wait, damn, I should have said that.
Damn it. No. All right. But yes,
Um,
continue.
but, yeah, overall, I feel like overall Kenshin's going to, for the moment, stay a strong aggro deck. I feel like part of it was if I'll just use like a Ashford as a quick example. If Ashford had been given a bit more in terms of triggers and consistency, we would have seen a consistent, solid red aggro deck a
If
lot earlier on, just
we
because
just
of
got
how
the
much it can
wheelchair.
multi-swing.
Just got the
Yeah.
chick in the wheelchair.
If
That's all we needed.
if we oh my goodness, no, if we have her, like I thought her effect was all right until I started seeing what was in Volume 2. I'm like, oh wait, I can just restand her
Yeah.
like 3 times the turn I play her,
Yeah.
and nothing can be blocked.
Oh no, you
Never
wiped my
mind.
board.
Anyway, it's like, oh no, you wiped my board. Anyway, um,
Yep.
I feel like if just I guess how the design for Ashford went differently and it had a bit more consistency. Like I feel like once Ashford legitimately gets consistency, it'll be in a much better spot. I don't
Yeah.
know if it'll be like a top contender, but it'll be solid. It'll be like a solid multi-swing aggro deck. I feel like Kenshin kind of took some folks by surprise on how strong it, not necessarily on how strong it was. Folks in Japan saw
Yeah.
how the folks in Japan got to see its performance, and we got to see how it performed in Japan before it came over here.
Hmm.
But I feel like we would have been better prepared if we had dealt with similar decks already. Like there are like early on, there were some games I legitimately won because people just blocked too much, and it
Yeah.
left them with an energy line that they couldn't really push up, and it or they couldn't do too much, and they had to spend a turn replenishing while I continued attacking, ate a life or two to keep my front line safe, and then continued because they just were like, oh well, I can block and it just goes back. So, I mean, yes, but you still need to think about what you're doing on your turn. Like some of the hardest games I've had with Red Kenshin are the people that understand, okay, I can survive at with what I want to start my next turn with at say 3 or 4 energy and have like 2 spots in the back open, and even when going into the mirrors myself, if I'm playing against a Red Kenshin, I'll already have like a priority system in mind of like, all right, I can block with this. It'll go back here and replace this card that I'm fine with losing. And then I'll just funnel any other blocks into that card because it's just like this is the card I care about the least. And it's kind of like creating a priority system of where I'll end blocking wise versus life taken and things like that.
Right.
So, but since we hadn't had to deal with a deck like that, having to very quickly understand, like, okay, my back line is just as important as my front line beyond simple energy generation is something that I feel like a lot of people have at this point picked up on. That's pretty safe to say at this point, just because Kenshin said, learn.
Yeah. It's a skill check. Just the line of Kenshin during your turn. It's a skill check.
Yeah. And I've seen in some games, I've legitimately just won because people are like, nope, I need to sit on a full energy line and I need to do it like this, even if their deck is lower to the ground and they can afford to have a spot or two back there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of understanding, like, okay, as long as I end my turn with enough energy to potentially, like, if I've got like a 4-drop back there, or I've got like a 4-drop raid, understanding, like, okay, as long as I have a raid target in the back line, the energy to raid it, it's okay if I'm down a space or two in my back line. As long as my front line is capable of defending and doing what I needed to do on my turn, that's enough. That's more than enough, honestly. But I guess back more to what's coming out, I think that it's going to start having more things competing against it. Saito is still going to remain as strong as it is. Saito's still going to remain an incredibly strong deck.
Mm-hmm.
I personally consider it kind of like a 1A, 1B with Kenshin, with Red Kenshin, just because of the fact that I can special a Saito raid. He's still got 7 others. One of them can't be jump blocked. One of them finds the other. He can snipe and have a 5th attack. He can set up lines to where he swings with a 4K, draws, creates a 4K, creates a gap, pushes up with the snipe, and now he's got 1 to 2 open spots to block against Red Kenshin. Like,
yeah. Not to mention nullify impact. He just moves back.
Oh yeah,
and
nullify.
Push back up. Nullify impact. He just moves back. I'll push up. Like.
Oh no, 100%. Like so between Saito, the fact that Toshi got the boost it did from the binders, which is an exceptional boost. Like, Toshi's a very strong deck at this point.
Oh yeah.
The regional show that Sukun is in a much better place and can absolutely contend. I honestly feel like the moment you're X1, by the time the tournament ends, it's just a matter of if you saw maybe a little more or maybe saw something at a different moment, that could very well change everything, just because of the nature of UA. Mina's still really strong. The Eva decks that are coming out are really good. Yellow Eva, from the cards I've read, is going to be an absolute nuisance for Kenshin.
Yeah.
Just because one of them's an impact negate that can't be moved or bounced or BP reduced.
I feel like that printing was targeted.
Yes. Yes. And then you've got another one where it's like, if you do, and then, it is Watchdog Man, but it's so that's who was in the Watchdog Man suit. It was Ray all along.
Yeah.
Or you've got like the other Ray, where if you do negate all of the during your turn effects, the Ray dies, you get another one back anyway, and you buff something by 1,000. So now you potentially have a 5K to block with, and you just don't die anyway. And then Purple's really aggressive, has a lot of damage, card draw. Like, even if Red Kenshin slows down card decks that utilize their sideline, if you've got a good discard engine in the deck in and of itself, it's still going to perform fairly well.
Yeah.
I do feel like Kenshin is still a deck that will remain in top contention for a while, but I feel like it, at least off of how this regional showed, it's showing a trend of it'll probably be up there, just like Mustang was still up there, just like a Toshi was up there, just like how a Lancelot was still in the top 32. Like, it's one of those decks where it's like, once you hit the point of being like 6-0, 7-0, it's just a matter of what you see at a certain time. Like, changes if you go like X1 or you take the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Like, if I had seen one, if I had legitimately seen like a Karu on the draw when I was playing with Ming, I just lose. It was just the fact that I drew into a Kenshin that I was able to then raid and play a color trigger and discard and have enough swings to end the game, even through a final.
Yeah.
Like, that's that's legitimately all it was. It just came down to what I saw next.
Absolutely.
And then even like a little further down the line with some of the Kagurabachi cards, like one of them giving everything on your field step, so like the pushback just doesn't matter as long as that
Yeah.
doesn't go. You can just arrange your field however you want. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Help me, Step Kagura. That's
Exactly. It's like
it's gonna be fun.
so so that's at least where I'm at with it. I know that there are, and I mean, the deck's definitely garnered a fair amount of hate and bias towards it because it is a very aggressive, consistent, and I'll even say obnoxious deck when you're on the receiving end of it because a lot of the time, because of how much it draws, it just feels like, oh, they're always seeing their raids. They're always seeing this. Like it's just a matter of when they'll do this. And I'll even say like prior to Kenshin, I had a similar thought anytime I played a Mustang deck. It wasn't a matter of if they were going to see their raids, just when, because of all the filtering and card draw and the Riza raids. Being able to just set up what you're getting next or what you're getting immediately if you have the double energy Riza or a Fallman or a Mustang raid to immediately draw the card. So, but it seems like consistency is what they're going for. And
Right.
overall, that's all I really go for in this. Like this deck, I don't do greedy hands. Like if I can play something the first 2 or 3 turns, cool, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't really ever try to aim for going for like a super or high roll opening hand. Like I think I mulliganed in the entire regional like maybe 3 times throughout like the whole day, just because I mean, as long as I can play the first couple turns, like I generally feel very comfortable about what I'm going to be doing. It's just a matter of if I see what I need to see, I'll see it like in any TCG. It's you kind of just have to trust that the deck you built will get you a good amount of what you need.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, the consistency is going to be a huge factor, and all these new decks
Mm-hmm.
coming are consistent. And I think Kenshin is now, in the future, I kind of agree with you, where it will still be a huge contender in our meta and probably one of the best decks, tier one. Um, but it is now just showcasing this is going to be the floor of the power level for competition, or something along
Yeah,
those lines.
something like that. Yeah, like there's been because like there's even been some people who have like when I've like chatted with them, they've said something like, "It's like, well, what is the best?" I was like, when it comes to UA with how much variance there is with like life and what you can see and what your opponents can see, I just kind of it's like as far as aggro decks, I'd give it to Red Kenshin. As far as like control deck, I'd give it to like Mustang is probably like the best control deck in UA
Yeah.
for the moment. And now there's also like Amina, who's a phenomenal control deck with all the resting and stunning.
Yeah.
Um, or like if you've got like tempo combo decks, I'd say like Purple Gia, Saito, or like up there, like just really, really good at just saying like, all right, I've got 1 or 2 explosive turns, half your board is gone, and I've got a full board. Let's go.
Yep. All very good things to have. All right. I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you and congratulations yet again, Senru. It is amazing
Absolutely.
accomplishment. I'm so happy that we got to sit down and talk about all of this. Do you have anybody you would like to shout out before we wrap it all up?
Yeah, actually, just a couple people for sure. Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Um, I would say I guess I'll start from the biggest ones. I can honestly say that I got as good as I did playing with my roommate, Temperance, who was also there and also made a pretty solid run there. They're also just a very, very good player. Definitely would not have gotten as well as I did without the amount of games like we put in. Like we would just make random decks that we figured we would see, and even occasionally like the off-color one. Like we still like before the regional, we still scrimmed with like a Toto deck and Sukuna decks and Renji Rush and things like that. Just because in the first like 3, sometimes 4 rounds, you can run into anything and everything.
Yeah.
It's like half of this game is still people just kind of playing what they like, and if they feel comfortable enough to take it to a regional, then they will, and the results will be what they'll be. But um, Temperance is definitely a major shout out for me. I did a lot of games with them, and we swapped decks. We did a bunch of mirrors. I would run Mustangs and uh, other decks into them, along with like Saitos and things like that. And pretty regularly, we'd end up just kind of like chatting things over about like deck lists, things like that. And funnily enough, one of the changes that ended up kind of helping round it all off was was going down from 3 He-Tens to 2 and going up to a 4th Searcher Kenshin just to have like the 8 active triggers and 1 extra character, which ended up being incredibly handy. Like that 1 extra Searcher ended up making all the difference. Just because I noticed I would start to run into points in games where I'd have a He-Ten, I'd have like a special or two, I'd have an AP restand, and then I'd have like a random character, and it's like I am an aggro deck, and like 3 to 4 cards in my hand are events. this is really awkward. Um, I would say another. I would honestly say another shout out is playing with the guys in D3 over at their Airbnb and in some of their online tournaments were really helpful. Like D3 was definitely the first online tournament scene that I went into, and it was eye opening how much more I could improve at the game just from playing in there like one time.
Yeah.
And I've always been close in the D3 tournaments. Like I've come in second like 3 or 4 times, and it was always like Ming or Creamy or Papito or some of the other like strong players in there that would end up uh, getting me out of there in like the last round. But like they were like close, like best of threes, and they were always fun. The players in Rumble Rama are always solid. So of course, like even though I haven't done as many in there, like it's still like solid community, things like that. And the only other thing is, I guess it's just like a kind of, I guess it's kind of just like a patting myself on the back because like I said, this is like the first regional I've actually
Yeah.
attended. I don't count the Dallas one just because I ran into issues even getting to participate. So I kind of count this as like my first actual one. And it was one of those things where it's like it feels nice to have one just on the fact of while I was getting practice at locals, it would be a lot of like comments that didn't need to happen, kind of like some poor sport stuff, things that didn't need to be said, even when like the regional's 2 weeks out. And it's like I'm just trying to get some practice in because 4 rounds is 4 rounds.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I've kind of come to. It's one of those things like if you play the Kenshin deck primarily, you kind of accept like I'd even say kind of with Saito because of how silly Saito can get. You kind of accept that people aren't going to like you in the gameplay sense. Like they can like as far as like a deck they want to go into, they're going to be sitting there like you're going to snipe my stuff, you're going to double attack me, you're going to push my stuff back, you're going to be mean. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like if you run the deck, it's a similar thing that I said like when Green One Punch first came out. Like they sit there, they're even incentivized to not attack just so they don't swing into color triggers or active triggers or specials just so they can keep their defense up. And eventually they just decide, okay, the game's over. Big boy, Saitama, damage 7, go.
Yep.
Um,
I got a lot of hate for doing that. I get it.
So it's one of those things where it's one of those things where it's like, if you take the deck, as long as you understand, like, this is the deck you want to run, you enjoy the deck works, I feel that's all that genuinely matters. Like, if someone is brand new and trying to learn, I would say Red Kenshin's probably not the best just because you can end the game before they learn anything.
Nope. Hand them Sukuna.
So,
Easiest deck to learn with.
It's like, hand them Sukuna, hand them Toshi, hand them Yellow Bleach, hand them Red JJK, hand them Green Gios, hand them something that at least lets them get like some rounds and interaction in. But overall, I'd say that's about it. Like I said, it was just a really nice thing to kind of like get the big win after everything and after all the practice, after all the people making comments behind my back, and even occasionally, like just off of some of the game, and even just off of some of the games I played, there were people like, "Is that legal? Did you just do something?" And I was like, "No, that's just Shishio and Sojiro decks. They just kind of they don't. The rules are a suggestion with that deck. They just got to do things."
Yeah, all rules are suggestions when it comes to Kenshin. But I do think that's where we're going to have to end this.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you.
no, I totally understand. Yeah, we've been chilling for a minute, so
Yes.
all good, my man.
Thank you so much for doing this, everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.